On the evening of December 25th, 2009, in Manhattan, New York, Shele Danishefsky had just got done celebrating Christmas with her 2 kids. The next couple of days, Shele prepared to celebrate New Year's Eve with her family, but things took a sad turn when she was found dead in her bathtub at Dorchester Towers apartment building on the 31st of December 2009. The initial investigation found an accident to be the cause of Shelley's death, and the case was closed. However, a few facts about this apparent accident didn't sit well with some investigators, who decided to get to the bottom of why a young, ambitious woman was found dead in her home. A decade later, it would be discovered that Shelley didn't die by accidental death, but was murdered by someone who once claimed to love her. This is the case of Rod Covlin, who got blinded by his greed and went to extreme lengths to access his wife's money. In 1998, 34-year-old Shele Danishefsky was living in New York and pursuing her career in financial advising. Shelley had a kind personality that was difficult to ignore and had the ability to instantly catch people's attention with her graceful aura. Another fact about Shelley was that she was extremely ambitious too. She had studied marketing in college and started working in New York's financial sector soon after graduation. Her hard work and commitment to her profession eventually helped her become a successful financial advisor in New York, who had many high-profile clients. Everyone who worked with her or had her as their financial advisor knew Shelley as someone who knew how to get things done quickly. While Shelley was doing extremely well professionally for a woman of her age, her personal life was a completely different story. Despite being in the second half of her 30s, Shelley still hadn't found a life partner yet. Shelley had achieved a lot in her professional life and knew it was time to focus on her personal life and start a family with someone who understood her ambition, and her values. Shelley was actively looking for a life partner, and fate finally found her one. In February 1998, she attended a Jewish singles party in a bar called Le Bar Bat, located in the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood of Manhattan. It was an event organized for people of the same faith as her, so the occasion couldn't be more suitable to end her long wait and find a life partner. During the event, Shelley met a 25-year-old man named Rod Covlin, and it was love at first sight. In fact, it was more than that, because just a few hours after meeting Rod, Shelley called her sister Eve and told her that she was on her way to Las Vegas to get married to Rod. Although her sister convinced her at the time not to rush such an important decision in her life, that didn't end the special connection between Shelley and Rod. Shelley and Rod had an 11-year age difference, but it didn't bother either of them, and a few weeks after the singles party, the couple got engaged. Both Rod and Shelley had told their families about their partner and how amazing their bond was. 7 months after meeting each other for the first time, in September 1998, Rod Covlin and Shele Danishefsky got married in a happy ceremony that was attended by their friends and family. In 2000, 2 years after getting married, the couple welcomed their first child, a girl whom they named Anna. During the early years of marriage, the bond between Rod and Shelley grew stronger, and they became inseparable. Since both of them were Jewish, and Shelley had been brought up in an Orthodox Jewish family, it made the couple very active in their local Jewish community. Things went well for the first few years, but after that, differences started to arise, and both Rod and Shelley realized they didn't have as many things in common as they thought when they met and married in 1998. Shelley, being a hardworking woman, kept climbing the career ladder and became senior vice president for private wealth management at UBS. As for Roderick, he was completely opposite to his wife. He had initially tried to make a career as a stockbroker, but when he couldn't succeed, he decided to live off his wife's money. Shelley wanted her husband to be successful like her and even funded a couple of his ventures, but due to Rod's lack of interest, both the businesses failed. Having a husband who couldn't become as successful as her was still acceptable to Sheila because she loved him. But things started to change when Rod developed an obsessive passion for backgammon gambling. Rod won a few games initially and decided to earn money through it. He would go on days-long trips around the country to participate in different backgammon tournaments. When home, he would spend hours playing the game to get better at it. But that wasn't the only problem. With time, Rod had also secretly started looking for women to date on different websites and social media platforms. He was so into it that he once contacted nearly 40 women on Facebook in a single day, most of which were the backgammon players he had met during different tournaments. At this point, backgammon mattered more to Rod than anything and anyone, including his wife and daughter. To make things worse for Shele, he had also started having sudden anger outbursts, which made his wife believe that he was bipolar. Sheila's bad time wasn't ending as she got pregnant with twins and lost both of them in a premature delivery, when one baby died in the womb and the other died shortly after birth. The doctors told Shele that she wouldn't be able to conceive again, but the couple wanted another child. So in 2006, Rod and Shele resorted to an egg donor and welcomed a baby boy named Miles to their family. Rod had slowly become so toxic that he frequently reminded Shele that because of her, they had to use an egg donor to get their son. But he didn't stop there, and later even told their son that Shele wasn't his biological mother. In 2008, exactly 10 years after they had met and married each other, Rod and Sheila's marriage was damaged beyond repair. Things had gotten messed up to the point that Rod even asked his wife for an open marriage, which made an Orthodox Jew like Shele disgusted, and she immediately rejected her husband's idea. But this didn't stop Rod from his streak of infidelity, and he joined JDate, a Jewish dating website, under a fake name, James Early. Rod had become so toxic that he didn't even hide his affairs from his wife. By January 2009, Shele was completely fed up with Rod, his anger issues, and his infidelity. She even told her sister Eve that she was scared this could lead to something bad for her and her children. In April 2009, Shele decided to live separately to avoid issues with her husband from affecting her children. But Shele didn't want the children to be separated from their father, so she leased an apartment across the hall in the same building and asked Rod to move in there. The couple tried to make the new arrangement work, but soon things got worse within a month when Rod forcefully moved his stuff back into Shele's apartment. By mid-May 2009, Shele knew her marriage couldn't be saved and filed for divorce. This forced Rod to move back to the apartment across the hall, and things slowly started getting back to normal for the couple. Shele now put her full focus into work and continued with her successful career. Since she and Rod had officially separated, she also started seeing other guys. She was once again a happy woman who was thriving in her personal and professional life. Sheila's progress didn't sit well with her ex-partner, who decided to make her life the living hell it was in the later years of their marriage. He put up spy cameras in the hallway and even installed spyware on her computer to monitor all her online activities. But he didn't stop there and tried to get Shele fired by falsely complaining to her boss that she was using drugs and was also draining their joint account, when in reality, Shele used only $800 from the account compared to Rod, who had withdrawn $7,200 since their separation. Rod's attempt to get Shele fired from her job failed because her boss was already aware of the situation. Infuriated by this, Rod Covlin decided to become even more evil. Having unrestricted access to Sheila's apartment, Rod took the kids from their mother's apartment on July 8, 2009, and didn't come back at 8 p.m. when he was supposed to return the children. Shele tried contacting him, but he didn't respond to her calls or messages. Worried about her children's safety, Shele decided to contact the police. On the other hand, Rod hadn't taken the kids sightseeing or to a theme park, but rather took them to a Columbia Presbyterian hospital to report Shele for sexual abuse. However, the doctors and the administration for child services quickly saw through Rod's lies, and the kids were returned to Shele around 5:30 a.m. the next morning. But this didn't stop Rod from claiming his false story was true. He filed a complaint about Sheila's made-up abuse in the NYPD's Special Victims Unit. But like the doctors and the ACS agents at the Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, detectives in the special unit also concluded that Rod was lying and the case was closed. This move also backfired, and the family court judge who was hearing Rod and Sheila's divorce case limited his visitation privileges and allowed him to see his children only under a court's official supervision. The court also ordered Rod to pay $425 in child support to Shele. And when he said he didn't have the money, he was forbidden to spend money on backgammon gambling, which infuriated him even more. The anger soon turned into physical abuse when Rod choked Shele and threatened her that he would kill her. Scared for her and her children's lives, Shele immediately got a protection order from the court. Up until this point, Rod was still a part of Sheila's will, but on December 29, 2009, Shele decided to fully and permanently cut her ex-husband from her life and asked her estate attorney to remove Rod's name from her will. On the 30th of December 2009, Shele left the children with a babysitter and went on a date with someone she had recently met on JDate. When she returned from her date, she played with the kids for a while before putting them to bed. At 10:13 p.m., Sheila logged into her JDate profile and logged out after a few minutes. On the 31st of December, the day when Sheila was to meet her estate attorney and put her husband's matter to rest forever, her 9-year-old daughter, Anna, woke up at 7 a.m. and went to her mother's room to wake her up. However, Anna didn't find Sheila in her room. She then went into the bathroom, and as soon as she opened the door, she screamed. Sheila was lying face down in a pool of blood. Anna immediately called her father, Rod, who came running into their apartment. Rod removed Sheila from the tub, called 911, and performed CPR on her motionless body. When the police reached Sheila's apartment, first responders were already there and informed the officers that the deceased was in the rear bathroom of the apartment. Soon the investigators also arrived at the scene. Rod told them that he believed Sheila accidentally slipped and hit her head on the bathtub while taking an early morning shower. He even showed the investigators a cabinet above the bathtub with its hinges partially pulled off. The investigators also thought that it was nothing more than an unfortunate accidental death. Anna, who found Sheila's dead body, and Rod, who was the first adult to come into contact with her body, were asked a few more questions before the officers concluded the investigation and informed Sheila's family of her death. After returning to his office, one of the detectives, Rod went over the details of the crime scene. While the evidence pointed to Sheila's death being an accident, Rod believed something was off because a lot of things he saw that morning didn't make sense. For example, the position of the body and the angle of the cabinet door that was pulled off didn't match the slip and fall story that Rod Covlin had told him. Another thing that Rod noticed was that the victim had bruises and red scratch marks on her face, lips, and right arm, which was unusual for a person who had just gone to the bathroom for a shower. The detective then tracked Sheila's activities from the previous night, and one particular detail made him even more curious about the cause of her death. A day before her death, Sheila had received a keratin treatment and was told to not wash her hair for the next 72 hours. It raised a question. Why would Sheila decide to take a bath when she wasn't supposed to wash her hair for the next 3 days? Rod had also told the investigating officer that he had pulled Sheila's body out of the blood-stained water, but his shirt was without any stain when he was sharing details of the incident. Detective Rod didn't do a full forensic search of the crime scene because he wanted to wait for Sheila's autopsy to be released first. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because Shele Danishefsky's ultra-Orthodox Jewish family was against it because of their religious beliefs. After this, Detective Rod couldn't do much in his investigation, and the case was officially closed. The news of Sheila's death had shocked everyone close to her. However, like Detective Rod, some of Sheila's family and friends were also suspicious about the cause of her death. Eve, her sister, revealed that Sheila didn't like taking baths and always preferred taking showers. One of Sheila's friends, Stephanie Goldman, also agreed with Eve's statement and had said that Sheila never even took a short bath. Even after her burial, many members of Shele Danishefsky's family suspected that she was a victim of cold-blooded murder by her ex-husband Rod Covlin. The suspicion soon turned into a firm belief when Sheila's estate attorney, Lance Meyer, informed the family that Sheila was scheduled to meet him on the day of her death to remove her ex-husband from her will. The reason for an increasing number of fingers pointing at Rod Covlin was simple. He stood to get $5.2 million in the event of her death, while he was still in her will. In light of these new shocking details, Sheila's family approached the authorities and requested them to reopen the case and continue with their investigation. Detective Rod and Detective Francis Brennan, the two lead investigators in the case, informed the family they couldn't investigate Sheila's death further because the case was officially closed. The detectives also told the Danishefskys that the only way to reopen the case was if they allowed an autopsy of the victim's body. However, that was out of the question because of their religious beliefs. When the police refused to help them without an autopsy, the family took matters into their own hands and hired a private investigator, Michael Swain, to get to the bottom of Sheila's death and Rod Covlin's role in it. When Michael Swain visited Sheila's apartment, he noticed that the screws of the cabinet hinges had been pulled out by design, and someone like Sheila, who had a lean build, couldn't rip off the hinges even while falling. He also noticed that there was no bath towel in the bathroom, which was quite unusual because, according to Rod, Sheila had gone to the bathroom to take a bath. 2 months after Sheila's death, her family agreed for her autopsy to be carried out. On the 1st of March 2010, the authorities got the order of exhumation from the court, and Shele Danishefsky's body was sent for an autopsy. When the autopsy report came back, it was found that Sheila's hyoid had been fractured, which was a common sign of strangulation. In light of the new revelations, in April 2010, Sheila's cause of death was changed from accident to homicide. However, the investigation team had to wait for 2 more months to get a search warrant for her apartment. When it came to interviewing the people who had seen or interacted with the victim during her last few hours, Melissa Shields, Sheila's friend, was the first person to be interviewed. Melissa told the investigators that she had met Sheila a few hours before her death and sensed something was wrong. Upon asking her friend about it, Sheila told her she felt her ex-husband was following her. When Shele Danishefsky's ex-husband, Rod Covlin's turn for an interview came, he refused to cooperate with the authorities. Upon checking his emails and phone records from the 30th of December 2009, it was found that he was in contact with a woman named Deborah O from North Carolina. Married with 3 children, Deborah was a backgammon player Rod had met during a tournament. They both had started an extramarital affair, and Deborah had even visited Rod in New York. On the night of Sheila's murder, Rod and Deborah played backgammon until 1:03 a.m. before Rod left to do some work on his backgammon federation. At 4 a.m., Rod sent Deborah a text and told her he didn't do any work because he had fallen asleep. The apartment building's CCTV cameras showed Rod going out of the building at 4:13 a.m. He came back a few minutes later and gave the doorman a Snickers bar, which was very out of character for someone who was normally antisocial. Sheila's time of death had been estimated to be between 1:25 a.m. and 4:25 a.m., and that was the exact time window when Rod wasn't in contact with Deborah. When Deborah was interviewed, she only had good things to say about Rod and didn't give anything that could lead to charging Rod with Sheila's murder. Rod, due to the ongoing investigation and murder case filed against him in 2011, was barred from accessing the money Sheila had left him in her will, and his children were placed with his parents because of Rod's custody battle with their maternal uncle. Soon, his parents found out that Rod had been stealing from the children's college fund, which resulted in violent arguments. Rod took a total of $84,000 from the children's college fund and spent it on trips with Deborah and participating in different backgammon tournaments. Due to his increasingly violent behavior, Rod's parents banished him and Deborah from their house. Infuriated, he decided to kill his parents and get his children and Sheila's money back. He came up with a number of different murder plans. Initially, he thought of poisoning them by getting Anna, his daughter, to mix the poison in their tea. But he soon dropped this plan and decided to sneak into the house through the basement window, kill both his parents, get his children, and set the house on fire. A couple of his plans also included Deborah, whom he had shared everything with, but she refused to become part of any such plan and asked Rod to drop those ideas too. While Rod was busy trying to find a foolproof plan to get rid of his parents, the police were looking at different aspects of the case to find credible evidence against him. When Rod realized he might be close to getting arrested, he tried to frame his daughter, Anna, for Sheila's murder. He drafted a false confession in Anna's email account, in which she had said she pushed her mother in the bathroom, which resulted in her death. According to the fake email, on the night of Sheila's death, Anna had an argument with her because of her going on dates. By 2014, Deborah had also become terrified of Rod, and the pair started growing distance. Rod eventually broke up with Deborah, which turned out to be a huge mistake because Deborah soon contacted the authorities and told everything she knew about Rod and her plans over the years. The police now had enough evidence against him, so Rod Covlin was arrested on November 1st, 2015. The arrest was made just 2 months before the end of the 6-year wait imposed on him by the court, which would give him access to Shelley's $5.2 million. Besides her statements, Deborah also provided hard drives full of data from Rod's electronic devices that indicated that Rod killed his wife to gain custody of the children. As a result, Rod Covlin was charged with second-degree murder in 2016, and his trial began in 2019. A 12-member jury heard testimonies at the Manhattan Supreme Court in New York. The prosecutors argued that Rod always wanted to get rid of Shelley. It was just a matter of when. The prosecutors also argued that, despite all the evidence against Rod Covlin being circumstantial, he was the only person who had motive to kill Shele Danishefsky. Patricia Swenson, one of the key witnesses and Rod's former girlfriend, told the court that during a trip in August 2009, Rod got extremely angry when talking about his ex-wife. She also said that he repeatedly said during that trip he wanted to kill Shelley. As the trial progressed, more and more damning evidence against Rod was presented in front of the court. Despite his lawyer's attempts to portray him as innocent, the conclusion of the 8-week-long trial saw the jury finding Rod Covlin guilty of murdering his ex-wife, Shele Danishefsky. On April 10, 2019, the court sentenced Roderick Covlin to 25 years to life imprisonment for murdering his ex-wife. Rod Covlin later appealed the court's decision, but the appeal was rejected. He is currently serving his time in Attica Correctional Facility in New York.